All right. Eric asked, how do you do the main function helper function thing? So basically, um, I mean, you just have like a helper function, and in that function, you do something. I guess maybe it's like a function for printing your array in a special format, or maybe it's like just one of the for loops. For the homework, it didn't have to be too complicated, but just you need to have a helper function, and then in the main function, what you want to do is you want to put the helper function and basically put everything together inside the main function. So when you're doing like more complicated stuff, you would use the helper function inside of the main function. You would have a lot more helper functions if you were doing something more complicated. And today we'll be learning more on these functions. First, we'll learn a little bit about dictionaries, and then we'll also learn about classes. And this will also be the last class of this course. So here we have a dictionary. I named it MyDict. Um, and you define a dictionary using curly brackets, right? And then you have the kind of like a dictionary, you have the term, so here name, and then the definition. Use a colon, and then the definition would be Python programmer. So my name is Python programmer, and then comma. The term email refers you to this email. This password refers to the password of the email, I guess. So then if I were to print this, it would just display the same thing. And you can ignore this line over here. We'll just skip over to if you want to access a term. So I can figure out, let's say I want to get the name, then you use brackets, just like a list. Instead of numbers, you use the actual term. So Python programmer, or you can use .get parentheses name. So it's really similar to list, where you just use the find function. So now we'll be going to the main part of this lesson, which is classes. And everything in Python, I mean, Python is an object-oriented language, programming language. And what that means is that if I have a variable, like over here, I have the variable foo. This is a object, right? If I set foo to a string, that would still be an object. So every like entity in Python is like an object. And basically, strings are going to be classes. They're going to be classes. So a number or a string or a list would be similar to a class. And a class is kind of like one of those things that you define. Here I just have a class and I set x equal to 5, and to access this information you would use a period, so foo.x. Another thing that's going on here is when I make my class, this is a definition of a class, and then I need to kind of activate it. I need to create the object, my class, and then I access the info inside. And if you see anybody making a class, usually you will see them using the init function, the initialize function. So in the example here, we have the class human, and we define our initialize function as taking these 3 parameters: self, name, and height, and then we set self.name equal to name and self.height equal height. And what will happen here is if we say Joe is a human and his name is Joe and his height is 1.75, notice how the parameter self is ignored because that's kind of like a given. And if we print Joe.name, it will return what was inside of this parameter. And if we print Joe.age, actually Joe.age won't work. It was supposed to be Joe.height. And of course that would return 1.75. So next we'll be moving on to the properties of an object. So you can remember if we looked for Joe.name, that would return Joe. But we can actually change that by just setting Joe.name equal to like Jonathan. And then you can also delete this parameter. So you can just get rid of that data. You can also delete Joe, the human. Just delete that entire object by using del. So now we'll be using classes to convert an integer to a Roman numeral. And I guess I should explain what a Roman numeral is. Let's see. So a Roman numeral, they use letters instead of like digits. So I is equal to 1, V is equal to 6, X is equal to 10, and so on. Let me look for the V is equal to 5, that's right. Sorry. So then after that, I guess there's like a lot more. Let's see. I'll clear all the drawings and just make a new one. So here I just have my solution code. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but I is equal to 1. V is 5. Oh, I should make it capitalized. 10 is equal to oh wait, no, X is equal to 10. And M is equal to 1000. So what I suggest you do for this program would be to not only have like in your init, you would probably want to have a values, kind of like a values variable, and then also a symbols variable. Now what you would want to do is in here, in the values variable, you would put like 1000, 900, 500, kind of like that. And then your syllables, you would want to put, symbols. You would put like string for M, string for CM, right? Because it will be a lot harder if you need to add the rule of putting the number before. So if I have C, which is 100, and I put it right before m, which is 1,000, that will be 1,000 minus 100, which is 900. So it'll be a lot easier if you add the like special combinations too. Another thing you want to do is, I guess, you might want a empty output string. And then have like a while loop. So while, let's see, while I guess the input number is greater than 0. And then of course you would put that parameter in the init function itself. So somewhere earlier over here you would just say def init. You would have self. You can never forget self for an init function. And then also, I guess, num. And then what you want to do when you actually convert the code is every time you go through the loop, you would subtract, you would try to subtract the greatest number from whatever number you're inputting. So let's say num is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we would do here is first we try if 1, 2, 3, 4, you can subtract 1,000 from 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what you would do is, like, if that's true, you would leave with 234. And then every time you just test the next value in your list for values, right? So first you try 1,000, then you try 900, then you try 500, so on. So once we get to 234, we would just loop all the way down to 100. And subtract 100 for that. And don't forget that, let's say this was actually 2,234. Then after you subtract 1,000 from it, you actually want to stay at that original position. So you want to go back and see if 1, 2, 3, 4, if you can subtract 1,000 from that. So only once you get to 2, 3, 4, and you can't subtract 1,000 from that, then I guess you could have some sort of counter. So counter equals 0. And then you say once it's not, you can't subtract 1,000 from 234, you move the counter up 1, right? Move the counter up 1, so then it can go down to the next number, which is 900. Does everyone get that? The pseudocode's kind of ugly, but you guys should be able to do it. And if all that was a little fast for you and you need to go back and see how classes work, I can always go back a few slides to like object properties or init function. or just the classes and objects. One thing I would suggest though is that this function, this program, it's actually not the best example for using classes because you can actually just not use classes. You can use a function or just have a full-up program with the input. But this is basically just to get you to practice the kind of terminology and stuff of classes. It's not really to help you practice, I guess, like self.name equals name and self.height equals height, that stuff. You're just putting your entire program inside of the init function. So what I meant by that was that you should just write out this code as if you would just do it normally and then try to get it into a class. Alright, I'll give you guys 5 more minutes since this is a pretty complicated program. Do you guys want a hint? If you do, type yes in the chat. Yeah, you guys can just look at the code. Right now I'm just trying to format this. See if you can like understand what's going on. Alright, so if you don't understand what's happening, basically I made the list, or actually I took this sample solution from W3 resources, but we have this list here, and each value in our values list corresponds to the letters in our symbols list. And then here we just have the empty string, which the init function will return, right? It'll return Roman num. So, and then we will put each letter inside a Roman num. And so we start out with a counter, I is equal to 0. So while our number is greater than 0, the number that we inputted. So for this guy is super weird. He uses an underscore. I mean, I would rather use like times or something like that. It's much more. Just underscore is not a good character for looping. So for times in range, num, and then did I teach you guys what the double slashes are? Alright, I did not teach. Eric, do you know what it is? Alright, so basically, a double slash, you don't want to get it confused with a backslash, because this is a double forward slash. And you guys know that regular forward slash is just a division. A double slash is like kind of like floor division. So it rounds what you divide to the nearest like whole number. So basically what they did here was they just figured out, oh, they took the counter, they found the index of the counter in val, right? And then you take your number, and let's say it was 2234, and if you floor divide it by whatever this is, so 2234 divided by 1000, that would just be 2, right? So that's actually a lot smarter than what I thought of. And what they did then was they took Roman numerals and they added like they added 0 to Roman num, and then they subtracted 1000 from num. And then this is basically kind of what I told you guys to do, but by figuring out how many times 1000 goes into 2234, then that's exactly how many times they go through this loop and subtract 1000 from 2234, and also putting m's inside. So after this for loop, the first time we go through this for loop, then there will be 2 m's instead of our string Roman num. see. This is actually going to be a good place to put a table. So we start out with, let's say num equals 2, 2, 3, 4. And then I equals 0, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then 2, 2, 3, 4 divided by 2 slashes. 1000 is equal to 2. All right, you round down. And then Roman num, which is a string, you add the 0th, I guess, uh, the first index, and then it'll turn into 2m's, right? Because you go through the for loop twice. And then I will equal to 1, and you will go through the loop again until you get all the way down to 0 while num is greater than 0. Or you go less than 0. I don't think that's going to happen. So that is the end of the last class for the Python course. If you guys have any questions, you can contact us, but I don't think you guys will have any. And if you are going to do the homework or already have did the homework from last week, which was using functions on the array generator, just put it inside of the classroom and I'll look over it for you. Just give you guys some tips. Have a good day.
Hello. 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 Is it like ending? Hello. Hi.